Hello everyone. Today we're going to talk about business skills that are extinct or going extinct. I witnessed this firsthand when I worked in corporate America. I left in 2024 and I do not regret it one day. Business skills have gone by the wayside because personal skills have gone by the wayside because it's carried over to businesses. Employees are no longer taught empathy and be good to the customer because that's your paycheck. They're taught the CEO is your paycheck. The business is who you care about. You don't care about the customer. The first skill is interpersonal skills. These skills are used in personal or business relationships. They are the foundation for getting along with one another. But when you work with other people, you have to be able to get along with them amicably. Also, teamwork is an effort. Teamwork doesn't come naturally to a lot of people. Some people are shy, some people are introverted, some people just don't like people. And when you have a company, you're going to have a lot of people with different personalities working together. Teamwork is the key. Without proper teamwork in place, there's going to be a lot of headbutting, there's going to be a lot of arguments, clashing, bad vibes, and ultimately bad morale. Compromising. When people work in a company with one another, there has to be compromise on both sides. An example of this was when I worked in corporate America, the company hired 2 people to lead a team, which I was in. They didn't even work in my state. They could work from home. They were not flexible at all. They decided to implement meetings. And when they did that, they decided that the meetings would be at 8:30. My workday technically started at 9, but I was always there early. But the reason I was there early is because I had work to do. So I asked for compromise. I said, is it possible to be flexible? Maybe this time 8:30, next time 4:30. Is it possible to have a flexible meeting time? The answer was no, absolutely not. It was her way, not our way. And that is no way to be in a company. You have to be flexible because when you have employees, they're people like me and you. They have lives. They have kids, perhaps. They have families. They may be a caretaker for somebody. There's things going on in their life where an 8:30 meeting might not be a possibility, especially if their hours are 9 to 5. But yet, despite all that, when I was in corporate America and they had these 8:30 meetings, if somebody was 10 minutes late, they called them out for it in the meeting to humiliate and embarrass them. And I just thought, you know what, that is not right. The second skill is communication. Communication skills include sharing feelings, talking, writing, and listening. I come from a generation, Gen X, where my communication skills were learned through school. We learned how to write in cursive, penmanship. They don't teach that now in schools. And they don't even have to teach writing at all because their argument is the kids can use a computer. I actually talked with somebody in my state about this, and they told me that as long as a child can use a computer, the school system does not have to teach them to write, not even one single letter, because they only have to do the minimum that is required to educate them. However, there are consequences to that. Because I learned penmanship when I went to elementary school and I could write in cursive, one of the school projects we had back then was to have a pen pal. And I actually got a note back from a pen pal. It was kind of cool. Today, it might be kind of scary. You don't want your kids getting mail from strangers. Stranger danger. We didn't have that back then. But more importantly to the point, digital communications are now the thing. Texting, emailing, online chatbots, shorter messages. Instead of a long, thought out, handwritten note, now it's thanks. Hey, what are you doing for dinner? Nobody has time for a lengthy note. I have an elderly friend who loves to write letters and notes to people, and she cannot understand why nobody writes her back. I don't even get invitations anymore. People just go on Facebook, and if I don't see it, I don't go. We also see it with everybody's texting and communication in the digital world today. People use emojis instead of spelling things out. I've seen some business correspondence too with the same type of thing. And you have to be careful of that when you're in an office setting, because if you use like a tongue sticking out emoji, it could mean something other than you think. And now you got a suit filed against you because you're using the wrong thing, which means something else, and nobody understands what it means. The styles of communicating that we learned when we were in school, if you're in my generation, are not the same today. The styles of communicating are much different now. And with the incorporation of AI technology, it's going to be even more defined. The next skill that has gone out the window right along with common sense is called tact. T-A-C-T. When I worked in high pressure sales for 90 days at a car dealership, the managers were so brainwashed. They would tell us, if a customer walked through that door, it's because they want to spend money here, now go get it. They would not allow the customer to browse. I saw a video the other day and it had something like 250,000 views on it on YouTube. The person was discussing this exact topic, and they said that as a customer, they want to be left alone. They want to browse in their own time and leisure, and they don't want to be rushed. They don't want to be hounded. But yet that's exactly what the managers expected when I worked as a salesperson in a car dealership. And I did not like it. I left after 90 days. Some businesses and some business models have no tact in the equation. One such example of this is I have an elderly friend in her 90s. She lives alone. She can get around okay. She does have people in her family that go and care for her in certain ways. But for the most part, she can cook. She can walk around. She no longer drives. She can walk outside. And she does have people that visit her, like neighbors and friends too. But on occasion, she does need extra help. But she can still stay in her own home. Recently, I visited her and I saw that near where they used to have a fireplace and then they put in a wood stove. So now it's like a cement pad under the wood stove. I saw mouse droppings. I was not about to come out and say to her, "Hey, Beatrice, you have mice." No, I wasn't going to do that. This lady lives alone. She's in her 90s. First of all, I wasn't going to scare her like that. She probably would have wanted to go to a hotel and stay until it was resolved. It probably would have creeped her out. So instead, I took a picture discreetly. She didn't even know. And I sent it to her relatives that take care of her. And I told them about it. And they were able to find a local pest company to come out. So they told her, "Hey, we just have regular pest control people coming out. They're just going to spray for ants and things like that." And her first question was, do they have to get in the house? And they said, yes, unfortunately they do, but they're safe. You know, we vetted them. We know that they're good people. They're not going to hurt you. They're not going to try to break in your house, you know, because that was a real worry of hers. And she was fine with that. When the pest control people got there, though, they told her she has a mice infestation. And I wish they hadn't done that. And that's what I'm talking about. She personally did not hire them. Now, it is her home, yes, but the family hired. And the family made it clear this is an elderly woman who lives alone. Tact could have come into this equation. Tact would be the personnel from this pest company refrained from saying that to her and instead notified the people that called him and hired him to do the job. That's tactfulness, along with interpersonal skills, communication skills, common sense. People don't have it. They don't have the ability to think about somebody else. They don't have the ability to see, wow, that wouldn't work out too well. The woman is in her 90s. That might frighten her, or worse, I don't want to scare her like that. I'll just call, the family member that hired me and tell them. The next skill going extinct is respect. Respect is the ability to understand someone else's importance. Respect involves keeping an open mind. A story I heard once was a man dressed down intentionally. He came out of gardening and walked into a car dealership to buy a car. Not where I worked, but this is somebody else's story. And when he got there, he was frowned upon. Nobody wanted to wait on him. But he was a millionaire. He dressed down on purpose because he didn't want to be oversold. He didn't want to be sold a Maserati when he was looking for a Ford truck. So when you work in customer service, You have to keep an open mind about people because you don't know who anybody is. In society, people more and more, and I'm not saying everybody because of course I don't want to offend and insult people either, but more and more what I'm personally seeing are people that are self-absorbed, people that lack empathy, more arrogance, and just plain rudeness. And companies no longer see the value in customers. They don't see a customer as a loss if the customer says, well, I'm not going to shop here anymore. They see the customer as, oh, well, easily replaced. That's not good for business. It's not a good mental attitude. But businesses have changed from when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s. We had strip malls that were full. We had indoor malls that were full. We had plenty of shopping because we didn't have the internet. If we walked into a store when I was growing up and the store, something happened, they would rectify it immediately. The customer was always right. That was the general attitude. All stores shared. Now, I'm not saying that's the way to be. I'm not saying you have to be, customers are always right when you're in business. What I'm saying is customers were once respected and treated kindly and treated what they're worth as a customer. What are they worth to your business? But today they're disposable. Customers aren't treated kindly. Customers are yesterday's news. And the last business skill that's going by the wayside and already has in a lot of cases is customer service. I could go on for days about this issue, but customer service is assistance to support and guide a customer or offer resolutions in the event there's a problem. Now, going along with respect, as we just discussed, customer service has become automated for the most part. I can't even remember the last time I spoke to a human being on the phone anywhere when I had an issue or needed to talk to somebody about a problem. I don't often have problems, thankfully. The last time I called customer service, it was because I had a subscription coming due and I forgot to update my credit card that had expired on file. But there was nowhere to input the new credit card information. I got a notification that, oh, it didn't go through. And I thought, what? And I looked and I was like, oh, it's expired. Well, I got to update it, but I couldn't. It wouldn't let me. Panicking, because this was not a subscription I wanted to let lapse, I called the customer service number, the 1-800 number. It was an automated customer service. There was no way to get to a person at all. And it just kept repeating the same thing over and over. But the instructions it gave me had no way of actually doing what they said. In theory, yeah, it made sense. But if you did what they said, there was no place to do it. Like, go here and do this. Go here and do this. There was no here. There was no there. It was non-existent. But they kept repeating the same thing. Finally, after a few times, they hung up on me. I never got through. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. It's extremely infuriating and it's frustrating. But yet, more and more companies are going to this. When I called Walmart once, just recently too, I would say about 6 months ago, I got through to a person. At first, you get like a little chat field and you can put in your problem, but they transferred me to a human being and they resolved my issue in seconds. It was great. Thank you all so much for watching today. Take care.